I'm not a number, I'm a free man. Or sackcloth little robot automaton thing in this case. It's 9. Hello, welcome to the Bottled Imp, exploring the realms of fantasy. My name is Ken Boyter, and today we're going to be taking a look at the feature film, the animated feature film, 9. And it's directed by Shane Acker, and it does have a Tim Burton connection. Intriguing. Now, I first came across this, well, it was actually just perusing the Amazon fantasy section of their DVDs, and, well, yes, I did like the cover. I was attracted to it. Now, was I wise to judge a film by its cover? Let's find out. Set in a future Earth, well, I'm assuming it's Earth, they don't 100% make that clear. 9 explores the concept and the idea of machines rebelling against humankind. So it's one of those tales that's like Terminator in that respect. It's humankind has got to a point where they're creating machines that then create more machines that then start thinking for themselves, that then those machines create those machines that create those machines. You get the picture. And they start rebelling, and there's a big machine-humankind war. Now, the film actually opens up where that's already happened. There's a few little bits of flashback to give you that idea. And the actual characters, the main characters, are little sackcloth automatons. They've really got like a steampunk type feel to them. Like they're all made out of little cogs, and they're all kind of patchwork. They're not quite perfect. But do you know what? That is their charm. So instantly, when you see them and the cogs and the sort of steam and that kind of feel, I personally was drawn into that. It was really intriguing. So it's curious. There's a nice curiosity to begin with, a bit of a mystery. Who are these little automatons? What do they do? Who built them? What do they want? Who are they? All of those questions. So slowly as the film, progresses, that's what you actually start to discover. And number 9, they've each got little numbers painted on their backs. And number 9 is actually the main character that you follow throughout the film. It's our eyes and our ears, and what he feels, we feel. And so as he's discovering who he is, so are we. He does discover, he starts finding out about the world, and he starts to discover that he's not alone. There are other automatons. Number 2 actually kind of helps him out. And the storyline is kind of, initially you think this is the storyline, that number 2 helps him out, and then something happens to number 2. I don't want to give any spoilers away, but then he has to go and rescue number 2. And you kind of think, yeah, that's the main quest, that's going to be what the film's about. And you kind of think, yeah, well, maybe this ought to be more interesting, because, somebody getting taken and then rescued isn't necessarily the most original ideas. But that is just part of a bigger picture. And I love that in this film, because it starts off very small, very concentrating on these little, characters and who they are and what they're doing. Suddenly it gets swept into a much bigger sort of macro picture. And it sort of becomes, it actually becomes more political than I actually thought it was going to be. So you get nice flashbacks about what happened in the Great War. You get images, they do actually show you what happens as it all unfolds, but it's not spoon-fed. There's little clues here that they discover, little hints. And when you do meet the other automatons, and there's a little community. So the themes in this film are basically community, and what it is to be a community, and what makes a community work. And I guess if you're starting afresh, if your community has been wiped out, the personalities, who is going to be the leader, and are they a wise leader? Are they going to lead the community in the right way? And sometimes that doesn't always happen. So it starts to explore sort of dictatorships. And normally dictatorships, they work through fear. So it's like fear of the unknown, fear of protection of the community. We won't let outsiders in. And if something happens to one of our own, well, then that's just tough luck. We're not going to do anything about it. So then you have the theme of friendship and that's a really strong theme in here. There's a lot of friendship, a lot of caring, a lot of standing up for each other, even when it seems impossible. It's almost like you would sacrifice for your fellowship and your community. And then you also have the theme, again, this bigger theme of the warning of industrialization and what it is to, I guess, go too far away from nature. So if you build things that are too big, that the human brain and the human soul can't really cope with, in some respects, big cities, big tall skyscrapers, big buildings, industrialization, everything becomes faceless. Nothing is personal anymore. And people are going to get sick. People are going to get unhappy in their soul and in their spirit. So it tackles that problem as well. And hence why you have the machines, fighting machines. It's not just them fighting humans, because once they become thinking and free will, then obviously they're going to start turning in on themselves. So it becomes a big sort of mess in that respect. So this almost is a chance, I guess, to show how humanity can start again and hopefully do it justice and actually make the right decisions. Because remember, you've also got to fit into the environment, and again, that's another theme about destroying the environment. And if you're a machine, do you actually have a soul? Do you care about the environment, and do you care about other machines, and do you care about other living creatures? And so really the little automatons kind of represent humans, but they're so cute, they're lovely. And so you've got all this going on in the backdrop of actually it's more of an action film than anything else. So there are multi-layers to this action film, which again I wasn't 100% expecting. It was a nice little surprise. The production values are really good. There's nothing out of place. There's nothing we think, oh, that was a bit dodgy. The sound effects were a bit wrong there, or the animation was a bit clunky. Really nicely done, really beautifully animated, and the textures, the way that the lighting fell, and the costume designs of each of the characters, and each of the characters do have their own little personalities, the little automatons, and they play vital roles. They're not cliched as such. They kind of follow some archetypal characters, like the leader, like the warrior, there's even a mad one, like the sort of soothsayer, kind of slightly mad, foreteller of the future. But they're done in such a way that they're not cliched. And so when you put all them together, and I don't want to give it a spoiler, but there's a reason why they're like that. And for me, and it was really delightful because there was a nice spiritual element, not a religious element, but a spiritual element to this film that was really surprising and really uplifting, which kind of made it more than just an action film. And again, I keep using the word surprise. I was pleasantly surprised with that as well. As I say, the production value is really good. The music fits. The voice acting is good. It's nothing amazing. It's not, oh wow, that performance is brilliant. But it was very solid, and it all fitted nicely. It was very subtly done, in fact, and really fitted well. The dialogue was crisp. It wasn't cheesy or corny, and it fitted brilliantly to the characters, and it was well cast. In fact, Elijah Wood, of obviously Lord of the Rings fame, he plays number 9. You've got Christopher Plummer. You've got Crispin Glover, John C. Reilly. I don't really know that actor. Jennifer Connelly. She was in there, and so it really worked well as a team, and nobody really tried to steal the limelight. You didn't feel anybody was overacting or trying to give a show-stealing performance, and in that case, I mean, it really worked well. The direction was spot on, really good. There was good pacing, good action, good angles and viewpoints, and quite a creative way of directing actually. As I say, the animation was good, the textures were good, I really liked that. I liked the world that they created. There was a lot of, as I say, it was almost steampunk elements to it. And as for the fantasy, it is more on the steampunk end of fantasy, but there was enough, I always think spirituality is actually a good part of fantasy, and what it is, what is the soul and what happens to the soul and why have we got a soul. It does ask all those questions. And it does come up with answers in this respect, but it's all in context of the film. So in that respect, it's more that kind of fantasy rather than dragons and that high-end, high epic fantasy. But it does have a feel of because there are there are battles in it, if you like. I don't want to give too much away. So again, you have that kind of sort of quest feel to it, Lord of the Rings type quest feel to it. It did remind me, I was going to say, of Lord of the Rings and also of Terminator, where you've got the machines turning against humans, and Battlestar Galactica. If you've not seen that, that's great. I know that's sci-fi, but that's really good. So there's lots of aspects here. So it's a story that we've seen before, but they have done a good job of putting new twists and a bit more, I guess, spirituality in it. That I was surprised with that, and pleasantly surprised, as I say. So overall, yeah, I do recommend this. There was elements of emotion where you do connect to it. If I was going to be slightly critical, there wasn't enough of that. I wanted a slightly more emotional connection to the characters. Don't get me wrong, they were very well done, they're very well rounded, they're good characterizations, they're not cliched. But for some reason I didn't 100% connect all the way through with them. But that said, that to me is kind of a minor thing, because the story is intriguing enough. The creativity, the imagination, I love. It was quirky in places when it needed to be. There was a lot of good action, a lot of good fight sequences, a lot of inventiveness going on. Yeah, I would recommend it. And and obviously kids would love it, because there's enough going on there. And it is one of these films that if you watch as a kid, it'd probably stick in your mind. It stuck in my mind. And you would go back to it again, and then you would see the other layers that are in there. And so you would sort of reflect and go, yeah, it was more in depth than a regular action film is. And because it's animation, that makes it so much better, in my opinion. There we go, 9. Check it out. I do recommend it. Look at his little face. Look at his little face. How could you say no to that? That was 9. I do recommend it. Thank you so much for watching another Bottled Imp review. And don't be put off by animation. If you sort of think, oh, animation is for kids. Not all animation is for kids. This will be liked by kids, but there's enough in there for adults to like as well. Follow us on Facebook, obviously, and Twitter. Until the next time, yes, keep it very unreal, fellow imps.